It's not about not falling. It's about getting up again. It's about keeping on.
A shoe must be three things. It must be light, comfortable, and it's got to go the distance. Bill Bowerman. Nike has become one of the most valuable brands in the world, a company that's worth $100 billion and generates over $35 billion in yearly revenue. In today's episode, we will discuss a little less known figure in Nike and how they grew their popularity around the world. The story of Nike begins on a running track with a World War II veteran and a coach, Bill Bowerman, and his student Phil Knight. They met on the campus at the University of Oregon. Bowerman, being a coach, wanted his athletes to perform their best, either by helping them with their diet, enforcing discipline, or by helping them choose a pair. After serving in the military, Bowerman returned and started coaching track runners. Some of his students broke the 4-minute mile barrier around the 1950s. As he was coaching, he realized that the shoe worn by students would tear off easily. Frustrated from poor shoe design, he wrote to various shoemakers, mostly in Germany, proposing ideas to improve quality. But no one replied. Bowerman decided to take matters into his own hands, and with the guidance of a local cobbler, he learned how to make shoes. While he was coaching, a student joined his track team, Phil Knight. Knight, who considered himself as an average track runner, tried Bowerman's shoes and loved it. Shoes at the time arrived from Germany, and Bowerman would replace the sole, making it more comfortable for runners. Knight completed his studies at the University of Oregon, and then he went on to study at Stanford for his MBA. Here he wrote a thesis where he described that the labor costs in Germany were high compared to those in Japan, so the production of shoes would be moved to Japan. After graduating in 1962, Knight traveled to Japan and went shopping. Walking in and out of shoe stores, Knight saw the quality of Japanese shoes could very much compete with that of Germans. Speaking to the supplier Onitsuka Tiger, Knight expressed his interest and told them that he wanted to be the only supplier of Tiger in the US. Initially, Onitsuka did not think much of Knight's offer as he was one man asking for their business. But Knight's quick thinking changed Onitsuka's mind. Knight told them he has his own company in the US by the name Blue Ribbon Sports, and he could bring them tons of business. A deal was made between the two, and BRS was officially the only supplier of Onitsuka in the US. Bringing samples of Onitsuka back to the US, Knight went to the only man he knew with experience in shoes, Bowerman. Bowerman wasn't the biggest fan of this deal, as he grew up with shoes from Germany. Regardless, looking at the enthusiasm of young Knight, Bowerman decided to help him out. The two invested 50-50 in the business of importing and selling running shoes, which also gave Bowerman a chance to implement his own design in shoes. Bowerman famously wrote a letter to Onitsuka in which he said, "I hope that your arrangements with Mr. Knight would be such that I would be free to turn over the ideas that I have worked out on track shoes." After working on some designs, he traveled to Tokyo for the Olympics in the 1964 Olympics with 3 of his students. Bowerman met with Onitsuka founder Kihachiro Onitsuka and explained his ideas. He also toured factories to study stitching machines. He gained confidence in the Japanese shoemaking process and established relationship with Onitsuka. Meanwhile, back in the US, Knight was getting started. As he did not have a shop, he started selling shoes on the track from the trunk of his car. Knight successfully sold 1,300 pairs in his first year, which doesn't seem a big number, but Knight had Bowerman. In 1965, Bowerman came up with a new shoe design, one that was softer in the forefront and at the top, but a little harder in the middle. Bowerman sent Onitsuka instructions and samples for the shoe, and the two opened their first store. The design, known as the Cortez, was the first comfortable shoe for the roads. This shoe became a huge success, and Onitsuka started getting calls from other buyers. As they had a deal with Knight, they approached Knight telling him that they cannot let other customers go. After that, the relationship with the Japanese supplier went downhill. They no longer wanted to give product exclusively to BRS, and the two went their own way in 1971. This gave them a chance to rebrand themselves under a new name. BRS's first employee, Jeff Johnson, was on his way to Portland and read an in-flight magazine, where he discovered that big brands do not have more than 2 syllables in their name. The next morning, he woke up with a name, Nike. Calling another employee Johnson, said, "I've got it! Nike, the Greek winged goddess of victory." And with that, they started selling shoes under Nike. Onitsuka filed a lawsuit, but the judge ruled that both companies could sell the model. Although a lawsuit is not what a business wants, this lawsuit helped BRS promote their new brand. The next big idea for a shoe design came from a waffle maker. Bowerman was having breakfast with his wife when he saw grooves on the waffle makers, thinking that a sole with similar grooves would help provide better traction. The team at Nike designed their first waffle trainer. Their brand grew exponentially in 1972 when one of Bowerman's students, Steve Prefontaine, wore the waffle trainer. Steve was a track runner who set American records in the 1972 Olympics. "I like to make something beautiful when I run. I like to make people stop and say, 'I've never seen anyone run like that before.' And the rest is history." Nike's logo, known as the swoosh, was created by a designer at a price of $35. The swoosh is today worth $26 billion. As time went by, Knight awarded $1 million worth of stocks to the designer. After going public in 1980, Phil Knight was worth $178 million. In 1988, the company ran Just Do It campaign. By 2014, Nike was valued at $14 billion. The popularity of Nike grew exponentially when they signed Athletics to promote their brand. Bill kept innovating and improving shoe design with his student Phil Knight. They together created the most popular brand in the world. Until next time, have a good one.